Everyone, Saranai. Welcome everyone for the second day of our retreat. To start the program, we will say Namo Tassa and salute the Blessed One. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Khatame pancha dhamma visesa bhagya panchindriyani saddindriyam yugindriyam satindriyam samadindriyam panyindriyam ime pancha dhamma visesa bhagya sadhu sadhu sadhu. Dear friends in the Dhamma, as I mentioned, this is the second day of our Australian tour, May-June retreat in 2024, which is organized by Samahita Group in Australia. For this retreat, we have selected a section in the Dasuttara Sutta, and I explained a little bit about that particular discourse yesterday. If I refresh your memory once again, and this particular discourse is talking about 10 things. The 10 things the discourse is talking about are helpful ones, things to be developed, things to be comprehended, things to be abandoned, things to be kept on the side of decline and on the side of distinction, and things hard to penetrate, things made to arise, and things that should be directly known, and things that should be realized. And for these 10 things, they are giving one thing to be, one item which is most helpful to be developed, comprehended, etc. And 2 items for these 10 things, 3 items for these 10 things. So it's a matrix that is prepared by Venerable Sariputta to summarize the entire teaching of Buddha. And we are not going to discuss the whole sutta as I mentioned yesterday. We are taking just one aspect for these 5 days that we are having the retreat for. And therefore, we are considering here the Dhammas that are on the side of distinction. And we are not considering one item that is on the side of distinction, or 2 items on the side of distinction, or 3 items on the side of distinction, or 4 items on the side of distinction. We are considering 5 items on the side of distinction because we have 5 days, so we can take each item separately and then discuss every day. So those 5 items had been given in the verse that I just chanted. And the meaning of that verse is, it says, which 5 Dhammas are on the side of distinction? Then the answer is 5 faculties. And they're signposting 5 faculties. Faculty of conviction, faculty of striving, faculty of mindfulness, faculty of concentration, faculty of discernment. So these are the 5 things which are on the side of distinction that we are talking in this particular retreat. We covered bit of conviction or the faith faculty in the last talk. And if I refresh your memory again, the main items that we discussed there. The conviction is a general term which we can find in any facet in the society, any cross section of the society. We have faith. It is not only among human beings, it is everywhere where living beings are. When we do something, there will have some faith in what we do. But the faith that we are considering here is slightly different. And the conviction we are talking about here is the conviction about the teacher, conviction about the teaching, conviction about the community of those who practice this teaching, which we call Sangha, and the actual practice itself, the discipline, threefold discipline that the Sangha is practicing. So if we have faith, conviction in them, then you have the faith faculty, and that is what we discussed yesterday. And in having faith, we try to understand the basic teaching, the main teaching of the Buddha, which is the mindfulness. It is not just mindfulness, to keep the mindfulness to the fore, keep the mindfulness in the driving seat in your living, basically. So, so if someone is teaching that, and if you have faith in that teacher, then that is the faith faculty. And the teaching that he is giving is about keeping the mindfulness to the fore. That's great. Then you have the conviction in the teaching. And the fellow practitioners, if they follow and try to practice the same thing and try to master how to keep the mindfulness to the fore, then that is the conviction that we are talking in the teaching. And discipline, when you practice this mindfulness, what you will basically do is you will balance your virtue, you will balance concentration of the mind, and then that will pave the way for you to ultimate happiness, which we call wisdom. So these are the four things in which you will have faith, and in that the center of the teacher or the teaching or the community or the discipline is the mindfulness. And to what extent mindfulness is considered as important in the practice is important when one decides whether you have the real conviction that the Blessed One is talking about. And also, last time we discussed, when we have this faith, it is not just for the sake of faith. And the teaching, the faith in Buddha's teaching is very practical. Since you don't know what is coming at the end of the path, we definitely should have faith. We don't know when we go to school whether we will be able to definitely walk on the path that the education department has given us. So we think that it will be working, and then we just follow that path. And when we have that basic faith, it is called pasada saddha, or the joyful, and we are happy to follow it. And then when you keep on walking on that, when you study more about it, then you get not just joyfully accepting it, you get okappana saddha, you get some awakening into what the Blessed One is teaching, awakening into the mindfulness. Then you will have higher faith than the joyful faith. It will not be restricted just to worship the Blessed One or worship the teaching or worship monks. You will realize that there is something more, that you can become a monk even when you are not wearing robes, if you really practice this path. And then, because of that awakening into the truth, you start your practice. When you start your practice, every step that you take with the right teacher, with the right guidance, you will attain the path. You will attain the faith, rather. Earlier, you had just joyful faith, but now, what you believe, you have achieved. You have reached the destination. Initially, you thought that you will be able to go there, and therefore you had some faith in you that you will be able to go there. But in this faith, there is a path to reach what you believe in this very life, not after death, not after so and so comes into the universe or into the earth. There is nothing as such. If you walk on the path, you will attain there. So there is, once you attain the faith, there is no more faith. It's a reality. It's an experience for you. So this is the difference between the faith in Buddha's teaching and faith in many other denominations. Their beginning is faith, end is also the faith. There is no going beyond the faith, which we call Adhigama Saddha. Right. Now, by doing this, we don't simply safeguard the truth, if it is the truth, and we awaken into the truth, and then we attain the truth. That's the difference. So in other denominations, I'm not trying to let any denomination down, but I will have to show the difference between this teaching and other teaching. Buddha's teaching is, you initially you safeguard the truth, and then you awaken into the truth, and you try yourself and see whether truth is something that can be tasted. And whereas it is not the case in other teaching, hopefully. So far as I know, I may be wrong, but anyway, going further, today's topic is another faculty that we should have that is on the side of distinction. That faculty is called the faculty of striving, and in Pali we call it Virya. So when you take faculty of striving, we can relate it to the discourse that we were talking yesterday. We talk about the Chakya Sutta, where the Blessed One is confronted by a young Brahmin to say that Brahmin's teaching is superior to what the Buddha is teaching. And there, Buddha gradually explained to him that his teaching is not having any mechanism to realize the truth. Buddha asked this gentleman whether he has realized the truth. He says no. Then he asked whether his teacher has realized the truth. He says no. And so on and so forth. He goes back to 7 generations. And in the 7 generations, no one has seen, experienced what they are teaching. Then he said, it is just like, blind following the other blind. So it's a queue of blind people no one has reached. But in my teaching, you can go from Pasada Saddha, joyful Saddha, to attainment of the faith, or you can go from safeguarding faith to the safeguarding truth, to the attainment of truth. Then this young Brahmin who is very clever, very intelligent, he straight away asks the question from the Blessed One in this manner. He's asking, Satyanupattiya Bo Gotama, Hatamo Brahmo Bahukaro. Satyanupattiya Bahukaran Dhammang Mayang Bhavantang Gotamang Kuchami. He's asking the Blessed One, well, Lord Gotama, now you are saying it is possible for us to become the truth, attain the truth. Then he's asking, what quality is helpful for arriving at the truth? So it's something that I'm not quite sure whether we will get a question like that if we had been in that audience. But this particular Brahmin was very intelligent, and although he's young, all the elderly Brahmins allowed him to have a conversation with the Blessed. So that we can understand now why elders have allowed this person to talk to Blessed One. He is such a skillful, intelligent young person those days, right? So the Blessed One's reply is Satyanupatyo ko bharadwaja padanang bahukara, which means striving is helpful for arriving at the truth. So if you don't strive, you don't arrive at the truth. You arrive at the truth because you strive. That is why striving is helpful for arriving at the truth. So this is very common, very true for a lot of us. A lot of us just go and worship the Buddha and offer flowers and offer incense sticks and offer food, drink, water, and all that, and then say, may this offering, may this meritorious deed help me to get through the exam, pass the exam. And a lot of people have that attitude, especially in Sri Lanka. And everyone, whether they study or not, they should go to the temple and then get the blessing. Buddha can't do anything unless you strive. That is simply what he says. His own teaching, he says you will have to strive. If you study or if you strive, then Buddha will be with you. If you don't strive, then Buddha can't do anything. Although the truth is there, although the path is there, you will have to walk yourself on the path. So one day I was reading some Dhamma book, and then I exactly don't remember the name. It was something like that, Path to Nibbana or something, or Path to Ultimate Happiness. And I was in the surgery of my eye surgeon, and I was reading this book, and he came and asked what you are reading, and I showed him the cover page. Then he said, oh, it's a long path. I said, even the longest path, you'll have to take with the first step. And then he stopped conversation after that. Because that is the attitude of the people. There is nothing. The question is, how many of us are really striving? when we talk about striving, especially when you see the different translations in English, there is no agreement. In some places, it is called energy. In some places, it is called heroic energy. Some places, it is called persistence. In some places, it is striving. For some, it is enthusiasm. For some, it is exertion. For some, it is effort. And there are so many other terms that are used to explain this padan or striving faculty. So we should not worry much about what term to be used. So it is something that you will have to work yourself. And this faculty of striving or the faculty of energy is very significant in the attainment of enlightenment. For the attainment of enlightenment, there are 37 factors that one will have to fulfill. And I'm not going to give you a checklist, not that you will have to intentionally do those things. Those are the things, all these things are naturally evolving. So therefore, there is no need for you to see, okay, whether I have achieved this and put a tick and keep on going like that as we do in our office and professional life, right? Here, in the practice, what you will have to do is you will have to strive to be mindful. That's all. And when you are striving to be mindful, picks up. And when it develops, then these 37 qualities will start developing. So I'm not going to talk about all 37 qualities, just going to mention the 37 qualities and show the significance of padam, or significance of striving, or significance of energy in those 37 wholesome qualities which supports the enlightenment. So the first one is, as we know, there are foundations of mindfulness. There are 4 of them, and there are right exertions. There are 4 of them, and there are bases of spiritual powers, and there are 4 of them, and there are spiritual faculties, 5 of them. Spiritual strengths, again 5 of them, and then 7 factors for enlightenment. 7 as it mentioned, and then Eightfold Noble Path 8. So the total of this, when taken, is 37. So in these 37 wholesome qualities, the energy factor or the effort factor or the striving factor is appearing in about 9 places. The first one is there are right exertions. That is where we start. 4 right exertions. There are 4 of them. And when you develop this 4, and at the spiritual powers level or the basis of power, virya or the energy, there is one. There are 4 spiritual powers which we call chanda, virya, chitta, vimansa. In other words, will, energy, mind, and analysis. And of that, energy is one factor. And in the 5 spiritual faculties, that is what we are discussing now. And of that, again, as we know, this virya or the energy is a factor. And in spiritual strength, again, energy is a factor. And in 7 factors for enlightenment, there are 7 of them. Even there, one of the factors is energy or the exertion. And then in the Eightfold Noble Path, there is energy factor, which we call vayama, samma vayama, or the right energy. So there are 9 instances in the 37 factors for enlightenment, which are attributed to virya or the energy. So it starts with 4 right exertions. So once you start with these 4 right exertions, it keeps evolving when the practice is evolved. When your mindfulness evolves, your virya, energy faculty also evolves. When energy faculty evolves, with that, mindfulness will evolve. So like that, there is there is a collaboration between these two faculties. And what virya faculty do is, the prime job of the virya faculty is to uphold mindfulness, nothing else. And we may be talking mindful virya faculty in so many ways, but all those ways that we are talking must lead to one objective, which is to develop mindfulness, enhance mindfulness, and strengthen mindfulness. So if the energy that you are taking is for that direction, then it is definitely in the 4 right exertions. So what are these 4 right exertions? The first one, it says in Pali, Anupannanang akusalanang dhammanang uppadaya chandang janeti vayamati viryam arabati chittan pagganhati padhati. In other words, it says, for the prevention of unskillful states to arise, one will generate excitement, and he will strive towards it and start the exertion, and then stretch the mind and takes up and confronts anything that comes against. So this is the first right exertion. There are 4 of them. This is the first one. And as you see, there are 5 actions involved in it. And those 5 actions are trying to achieve one objective in the first one. So what is the objective? To prevent unskillful state to arise. When we generally live, there are a lot of unskillful states that are arising. And if you have some striving to avoid that, then that is the first thing that the Blessed One is teaching as the first one of the right exertions that you should have. Now, in that attempt, Blessed One is dividing, or I should say, categorizing stages, how this striving can be achieved. In other words, the right exertions or right energy constitutes 5 actions, and those 5 actions taken together makes it a right exertion or right energy, or makes it a striving. The 5 things that is necessary for virya or the padang virya are, as mentioned here, chandang janeti, which means generating excitement. So if one is excited about stopping or preventing unskillful state, that is part of your striving pattern. And then if someone actually draws up a plan how I will do it, then again it's a factor in the energy faculty or the striving faculty. And then he not just opens up the draws up the plan, he start implementing, and then that is again important aspect of the completion of the striving faculty. And then not only he start the exertion, he stretch his mind, he put his heart into it, mind into it, and he is doing it wholeheartedly. And when he is doing it wholeheartedly, there are so much of difficulties that he has to face, but he doesn't take a step back, always keep marching forward. So these are the 4 things that constitute striving faculty to start with. And I may repeat the 5 things that constitute the striving faculty. First one is excitement, then the striving itself, and then the start of exertion, and then stretch the mind and confronts any challenge. So when you are doing this, for what? For the prevention of unskillful states to arise. Then there you are on striving path. So we will see how what we are doing now in the retreat contribute to striving and how it is preventing the unskillful state. Now, in this retreat, you are given comparatively a controlled environment. Here you don't have TVs. Here you have been asked to keep your mobile switched off, and you don't have your next of kin here, and you are not in your office. You can't just go out and buy food from any outlet, and you can't select your bed, you can't select your food. You will have to simply live with what is there. So in other words, you have come out of the sensual world. If you are in the sensual world, there are so many unskillful states that arise. When you go to the road, when you are at home, and it is not necessary for me to tell, there are so many things to satisfy your eye, and you are going behind that. And so many things to satisfy your ear, we may be going behind that. So on and so forth. There are so many unskillful states that will arise to keep your faculties, not the spiritual faculties, the sensual faculties happy. And it may go to even stage of doing unacceptable things, maybe stealing, maybe killing animals. You may go fishing as a hobby. You don't consider, you consider it as a hobby, killing an animal. So it's an unskillful state. But you have generated excitement. You have drawn up a plan and implemented, and you have stressed your mind, and you have confronted all the difficulties that came your way. For what? To come out of that sensual world where unskillful states would arise and come and live in this controlled environment. So that itself is a huge achievement. When you come here, those unskillful states will not arise. You don't see many things. It is very relaxed, calm, and quiet area where there is a lot of green, and your sense faculties will not have much to get attracted by unskillful states. So therefore, coming from that sensual world in itself is a prevention of unskillful state, and you have done all what is necessary to do that. That is part of your energy faculty. That is part of your striving faculty. And not only you just come here, by coming it happens. And we give you higher precepts. By giving higher precepts, we encourage the participants to be alert, to be more mindful of possible unskillful states arising and getting translated them into the physical or verbal action. All what observing precepts do is requesting you, or rather you accept yourself to avoid unskillful physical and verbal deeds. So there are 8 of them that we have observed. So when you observe these 8 precepts, you agree that you refrain from killing living beings. So when you are walking, you are very mindful. If there are some ants, if you see, you will not just step on them and kill them. You avoid. So therefore, that observation of precept made you more alert, made you more vigilant, made you more mindful about your precept, about your physical and verbal deeds. And here we are observing to the best of our ability the noble silence. By observing noble silence, we are preventing any unskillful state that will arise out of your verbal deeds. So by accepting it, by contributing to follow such instruction, what you simply generate is striving to keep your tongue controlled. And keeping the tongue controlled will avoid unskillful states that relates to the verbal activities. So in this manner, if you like doing it, and if you draw up a plan and implement it, and you take whatever difficulties, whatever challenges that come your way, and go for it, then that is the first one. Anuppannanang akusalanang dhammanang no upadaya. You do everything to prevent unskillful states arising. So that is already provided when you come to this state, when you come to this retreat. So the second one is you are generating excitement again. You are striving again. You are starting your exertion again. You stretch your mind to that as much as possible. And you confront, takes up any challenges in your way. But now, not to avoid unarisen, unskillful state, but in this case, it is a bit challenging for the abandoning of the already arisen unskillful states. This is a bit more challenging compared to the first one. In the first one, we will have to simply put a firewall, put a barrier, put a boundary, and avoid enemies coming inside. So therefore, we have strengthened our security system, and nobody outside will be able to enter into the system. But there will have instances, intruders already come into the system. If the intruders are in the system, while we protect our borders, while we protect our boundaries of the physical and verbal deeds, our system also should be sufficient and capable enough to see whether there are intruders already in the system. So there is an example that my teacher used to give. He says during the period of kings, in order to protect their kingdom, what they do is they build a huge wall, and in the 4 corners of the wall, they put huge security presence, human security presence, and then ensure that no one is coming in. And also inside the wall, they have a huge either canal or some waterway in order to ensure even if someone comes in, covering the eyes of the security guards, someone enters into the kingdom, and there is another barrier. They will have to go across this waterway, and in that water there are crocodiles, huge ones, which will enjoy a nice human meal if someone jumps in. And they will have sharks and all sorts of predatory animals, water animals will be there to ensure that if someone jumps into swim or go across the waterway, good luck. He will meet his end rather than the end of the waterway. So it's again another protection. And then inside, they will have in the real part of busy part of the city, the kingdom, they will have spies in plain clothes, as beggars, as vendors, as these days three-wheel drivers. So in many forms, people will be there, spying what is going on. So by doing those things, what they do is trying to catch not anything coming from outside. They are trying to see whether those who are inside are trying to go against the king. So it's exactly the same thing that the Buddha is prescribing here. They will have unskillful states already arisen within you. And when those arisen unskillful states are there, then you will have to have an excitement, striving, and then do all these things that the Blessed One is telling to abandon them. Say, for example, when you come to this practice, we are introducing mindfulness, which means simple awareness, choiceless awareness of what is going in your physical and mental processes. And in order to do that, we have introduced techniques, walking mindfulness and sitting mindfulness. And in your walking mindfulness, what will happen is you try to keep your attention to the walking process. When you try to keep your attention to the walking process, it is well and good. You will be able to see how the right foot is placed and what sort of sensation you get and what happens to those sensations when you lift the foot, and then how you lift the foot, and then what is happening in the left foot, and so on and so forth. You will be continuously observing these things. When you continuously observing these things, it gives you a guarantee that there are no unarisen, unskillful states are arising, because you are with your primary object. And also, it ensures you that there are no arisen unskillful states are hindering you. In other words, when you come to the practice, when you come to the retreat, although you have left all your sensual assets, sensual worth at home, and behind you, sensual, sense objects are not here. But the sense desire will be with you. And that sense desire, although it is not the object, although it is not something which is tangible, but it is coming and disturbing you as a mental phenomena, as a mental state. So this is an unskillful state that is already in the kingdom, that is already in the system. You are preventing any physical and verbal deeds, unskillful physical and verbal deed. But unskillful mental states, mental deed will hinder you, will challenge you. When you have your attention to the walking, when you have attention to your sitting or to the breath, so it is not there. But sometimes it is complained by most of the practitioners that there are a lot of hindrances. There will have hindrances from sounds, hindrances from thoughts, hindrances from, especially when you are walking, the visual objects. And why that happens is because you have some unskillful mental state. And that unskillful mental state is now challenging, and it is already arisen. That is why your attention is going to the sound. That is why your attention is going to the thoughts. That is why your attention is going to the visual object. Unskillful state has arisen. So when this arises, you will have to generate excitement and strive and start exertion and stretch your mind and take up the challenge. How you do that is we can do it in two different ways. One, you can intentionally try to bring your attention from the visual object or from the thoughts or from the sound to the primary object, which is either walking, breath, or sitting, or whatever you are supposed to observe in your practice as the main object. And if you can do that, then you are the winner. You have abandoned the unskillful state. But it will not be the case all the time. You try once, you fail, second time, it comes and just vanishes in no time. Third time, it comes and vanishes in no time. So that gives you the idea that unskillful state is stronger than what you are doing. So here, the Blessed One is stepping in and reminding us what his teaching is. What he says is that mindfulness should be kept to the fore. In other words, mindfulness should be in the driving seat. So if your unskillful state is becoming prominent in this manner, if it is overwhelming you, the Blessed One says, don't bother trying to bring the attention back to the object, because that disturbance has become now. That disturbance has become you. That disturbance has become here. So if the disturbance is that prominent, then you will have to simply don't choose anything else. Choicelessly observe that disturbance. When you choicelessly observe that disturbance, then that becomes abandoning of the unskillful state. What is the unskillful state that you are abandoning? It's not the thought that you are abandoning. It is not the sound that you are abandoning. It is not the visual object that you are abandoning. You are abandoning the hatred towards it. You try to bring your attention to the main object because you don't like it. You don't like the disturbance. You like being with the main object. So there is on one hand liking to the main object, and on the other hand hatred towards the disturbance. These are the two unskillful states, strong unskillful states. And your attention going to the hindrance is also an unskillful state, but that thrives if you have liking towards one and disliking towards the others. So therefore, Blessed One takes that away, asking you simply to observe what is prominent now. When you observe what is prominent now, and if you are excited about that observation, if you are excited, if you are striving to do that observation, if you draw up a plan within your system to do that, if you stretch your mind, instead of taking my attention back to the main object, let me observe whatever that happens, whatever the hindrance, and whatever thousands of other ideas that the mind is giving, no, don't do that and do the other, you don't bother about them. You simply change your attitude and observe the disturbance. And when you do that, and that is when the factors that will contribute to the unskillful state, namely liking and disliking, will be kicked off, will be eradicated, will be gradually wiped off. And that excitement, etc., is therefore abandoning already unskillful state. That unskillful state is already there, and you have experienced it yourself, because when you are practicing, it is coming and bothering you, and Blessed One has given you the technique of mindfulness, of being to that state. And if you strive being mindful of that state, not bringing the attention back to the main object, that has been done even before Buddha. Buddha's teaching is, you are exactly identify what is now, what is here, what is you. And when you identify that, you simply observe that. That is mindfulness. So therefore, what striving does is sharpens your mindfulness, helps your mindfulness, uplift your mindfulness. So that is the second state, second striving stage. And the third striving stage in the striving faculty or for exertion is, we were talking about unskillful states. First one unarisen, and the second one arisen. Now we are, once the unskillful states are under control, then the next is the skillful states. And it says in Pali, Anuppannanam kusalanam dhammanam uppada, which means you help to arise the skillful states which are not yet arisen. You generate a new skill. In order to generate that new skill, if you are excited about it, instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, and this is not my other teacher taught, this is not that this book is saying, this is not my husband is practicing, my wife is practicing, and all sorts of nonsense are there, then you are not excited about what the Buddha is saying to uplift the mindfulness. But when all these things are there, if you are excited about taking the mindfulness forward, then you are on the path. And you strive and you start exertion and you stretch your mind and take up any challenges, then you are developing a new skill that you did not have in the past. And it goes very much further than that we already discussed in the previous exertion. In the previous exertion, what I mentioned was that when there is a disturbance, when either sensual desire has arisen or some hatred has arisen, you simply observe it. And then that when that observation capability increases within you, when that observation ability, skill rises within you, what you are doing is you are slowly growing and growing a skill which you did not have before. So therefore, it is the generation of a skillful state, arising of a skillful state which was not arisen before. And let me give you an example. When you become observant to the so-called hindrances, you gradually learn the art of not doing anything. Your attention goes to thoughts, you simply observe it. Your attention comes back to breath, you simply observe it. And the breath becomes subtler, you simply observe it. And breath becomes very subtle, you simply observe it. Breath becomes unnoticeable, you just become aware of it. Your walking becomes messy, you simply observe it. So in this manner, you gradually learn the art of not liking or disliking. So when you learn the art of not liking and disliking to anything that comes your way, maybe for example, your leg is paining while you are sitting, your knee is paining so much, your bottom is paining so much, you don't give a damn. Initially it is difficult, but with all the difficulties, you sit through it. When you sit through it, gradually your liking of not having the pain gradually slithers away, and hatred towards having it also getting gradually reduced. So in this manner, you become slowly dispassionate. You don't do anything, you simply observe, and then mind becomes bit lethargic. Mind becomes lethargic because you don't do anything. If you do something, you will not be lethargic. So therefore, it's a general complaint by the practitioners. When I am practicing, after some time, I can observe these things, and I keep on observing, but after sometimes I feel sleepy. It feels miserable. I get bored. It becomes very gloomy. So that is because your mindfulness is improving. Your liking and disliking is fading away. And this situation, very rarely, the practitioner considers as an arisen skillful state. Dispassion, which we call viraga, is a skillful state. But for the mind, it's a complaint, because mind wants all the varietal entertainment. They won't go to the club and have all sorts of sounds, all sorts of music, all sorts of colors, all sorts of girls, all sorts of boys, all sorts of drinks. But that is not there. When you practice, you simply observe like a mad monkey, or not mad monkey, it's a bad simile. It's completely the opposite of the Blessed One. Just like a dead person, you simply keep observing things. So this, therefore, rising of sleepiness or getting bored or becoming more and more dispassionate towards things is a skill that is arising. So here, the discussion with the teacher is important when this is happening. Then only the teacher will be able to support the practitioner, saying, generating these things is not easy, but when you come to this stage, that is exactly what the Blessed One has admired. He says your mind has gradually coming out of the passion, and you will be able to live with less now. You will be able to live happily now, and you will not have many things that creates friction within you. And so therefore appreciate your mind. Right? So when the mindfulness appreciation is happening, now you learn the art of becoming happy, not for having things, but for not having things. You become happy for being dispassionate. You become happy about the awareness of that you are sleepy, about the awareness that you are bored. Being happy about that awareness is a very strong, skillful faculty that one can develop. So that appreciation of awareness is the Anupannanam Kusalanam Dhammanam Uppada, rising of skillful states that are not risen, is happening when you start appreciation of the awareness and being happy about it. So we started with a very tiny bit of mindfulness, just being aware of one step, just being aware of one breath. So with your striving, it has grown to a stage that you are getting more and more dispassionate about things, even in the practice itself. If the mindfulness is going well, you are aware that it is going well. And if it doesn't go well, you know that mindfulness these days is not going well. If you feel happy, you are aware that you are happy. If there is something that is bothering you all the time and it is difficult, but still you are aware of it and you are trying to be happy about it. So in this manner, that tiny seed of mindfulness that you have grown is now gradually breaking the rock. It was a huge rock of ignorance that we had. And that rock is slowly getting broken into two pieces by the root of that tiny seed of mindfulness. So that is what the mindfulness does. When you strive towards bringing mindfulness up, and it breaks the rock of unskillful world. And that is exactly what is happening. When you see the trees that are grown on the rocks, and what that tree does is, it gradually going inside the rock and breaking the rock into two. So it's exactly the same thing happening. So once this unarisen skillful states, your next skillful activity or your next striving activity is to maintain this skillful state. It says, Uppannanam Kusalanam Dhammanam Titiya. Titiya means sustaining. And also say Asammosaya. Asammosaya means don't be confused about it. Because you usually get confused when the skillful states arise. When you feel gloomy, when you feel miserable, when you feel sleepy, when you feel lethargic, you think it is an unskillful state. But whereas so far as the Buddha is concerned, it's a skillful state. So you may get confused. So therefore, you should have sufficient discussion. You should have sufficient association of teachers. You should have the continuous practice going to avoid this confusion. So that is the next striving that you will have to have. It is not only to avoid confusion, but also to be vivyodhara, to be heroic. You can win the war. You can capture the area, but capturing area doesn't do. You will have to establish your power there. So now that is the next level of striving that we are talking about. And then Vepullaya. Vepullaya means you'll have to make it in abundance. Your mindfulness is now not only limited to your walking and sitting. It is not limited to your eating and taking a shower. You are mindful in anything that happens in your day-to-day activity. It is not that you are really striving towards it. You have developed it to such a state that naturally comes and helps you. So in this manner, you develop the mindfulness as a way of living, and that will give you huge accomplishment in your life. And if you have the excitement towards it, and if you strive towards it, if you exert exertion towards it, and then stretch your mind and takes up any challenges, when you do these things, there will be so many challenges that are coming. Especially because we are working in the world full of reaction, And we are learning the art of non-reaction and being happy. So it's a huge, when it comes to a way of living, it's a huge battle between the rest of the world and you. But if you can slowly sail through like a three-wheeler without meeting with an accident, you go through each and every box and you go to the front. So in that manner, or maybe a motorbike, when the traffic is there, he slowly takes all the small gaps and he's going to the front. So in that manner, when you are mindful, you should be able to take this skill in the reactional world to be non-reaction, and not just being non-reaction, and to be happy, more happy than other people. Naturally, generally, when there is no reaction, what is only left with you is happiness. If someone is reacting to something, that is because he likes something and he doesn't like something. When that factor of liking and doesn't liking is gradually fading away, and when you are happy, the fading away of that passion, then what is naturally left with you is happiness. And that is coming from mindfulness and the appreciation of mindfulness. So in this manner, be ready for another wave of challenges. So that will give huge waves of challenges. It may be from your practice. When this happens, your attention is always with you. When your attention is always with you, you may be feeling your body in a much more greater detail, and in a detail that you have not seen in your day-to-day life. You may see sometimes that your body is always giving pins and needles. You may feel that your body is always like, beehive. It is not solid. So why you see your body in this manner is because your attention is so sharp, and you are not even trying to hold your physical process intact and tight. We are holding it because of our ego. It is very tight. So when the ego gradually fades away through mindfulness, and by avoiding liking and disliking, when you avoid liking and disliking, what naturally happens is your ego fades away. When your ego fades away, you don't tightly hold on to your physical process. You don't tightly hold on to your feelings process. You don't try to hold on to your mental process. So therefore, you see all these are fragile. So that's another big wave of challenges that comes your way. But now you have the skill to face it. Not only you have the skill to face it, you also have the right weapon, which is the appreciation of mind. Just being mindful won't do unless you appreciate it. When you appreciate mindfulness, it takes the charge and gives you only happiness. So that is the skillful thing that you will have to generate, that you will have to complete, to have padang virya we call it. And in 4 foundations of mindfulness, it is giving another term which we call atapi. Atapi means it is covering the whole range of the evolution of this energy faculty, striving faculty, from the 4 exertions to a faculty of spiritual faculty, to a strength of spiritual strength, and then to factors of enlightenment, and so on and so forth. It gives the evolution in that word atha. But all that starts with these 4 exertions, and that is the only thing that keeps developing when the progress is happening. Talking about unskillful state, talking about skillful states, keep your excitement going, and taking any challenges is all what is necessary. So therefore, when it comes to this stage of being exerting energy, it is not the energy that your mind is trying to tell you. When we say striving, we feel that always we will have to physically be ready and we will have to bite our teeth and take the entire muscle power and do it. No, this energy factor is something that evolves into the subtle layers of the mindfulness. So when the energy is evolving to subtle layers of the mindfulness, you can't bite your teeth and have your muscle power all the time. Initially, at the very outset, yes. But over time, it has your energy also should become subtle. So the simile that is given in this stage is that you will have to be like a tusker who is trying to take a needle from the haystack. So when things are happening at this level of the practice, you cannot be panicking. You will have to be very subtle, but at the same time, very alert, very awakened. Taking a needle from a haystack by a tusker, just imagine the patience that he should have to reach that with that huge trunk. And that is the type of energy that we may require when we develop and when we make the skillful striving abundant and when we develop it. So with this talk, I would like to wish you all the very best in supporting the upliftment of mindfulness using this evolving striving factor. May you all be ready all the time to take up the very clearly laid down path by the Buddha, undergoing so many hardships, 400,000 innumerable eons he has suffered for exactly to understand this and tell us. But today you can see for yourself, people does not require that ultimate happiness. They are enjoying unhappiness left, right, center, and that is called ignorance. So you have taken a step in the right direction. So keep marching on that, and you will definitely get to the final goal. May it be so, and wish you all very best in that endeavor. Blessings of the Triple Gem. Thank you very much for listening.